Ready? Play.
Well, hello, and it is the WTA show, ready to talk all things women's tennis, because we didn't actually have any WTA main tour events happening this week. Instead, it was the Billie Jean King Cup, and I'm very honoured to have someone on the show who was actually taking part in the Billie Jean King Cup this week, playing for Georgia, Sofia Shapatava. Sofia, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm very good. How are you? Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
I'm very well, thanks, Sofia. And we're always going to have you back. We remember your brilliant interview you had with Jack a few months back, and we felt we couldn't think of a better guest to have on to discuss all things Billie Jean King Cup, which I think often gets overlooked in the grand scheme of things, and probably unfairly. But we can talk a bit more about that. Let's talk about you a little bit first, and how things went for you this week. So, just to bring people up to speed who may not necessarily know how Billie Jean King Cup works, maybe it's your first time really interacting with the competition. So, obviously, you were playing for Georgia, who were in the Group 2 of the Billie Jean King Cup, which is kind of like the mid tier level, and you were playing for basically 6 days straight. 5 days against 5 consecutive opponents from different countries, and then eventually got yourself to the playoff final, with the winner potentially getting promoted to Group 1, and lost what ended up being a tight tie against Portugal, unfortunately. It's still hurting a little bit.
Well, my biggest problem is that honestly, I love to play for my country so much that I underperform while trying to overperform. So I'm not really happy with the level of tennis that I produced this week. But of course, I'm like honored and humbled, of course, to represent my country again. It was actually my 12th time on the national team, which is a very good achievement for me, I think, because it's been 12 years that I'm representing my country on a national level. Obviously, it would be great if we got to the Group 1, because we were there before, we've been there, and it would be great to get back there. But it didn't happen this year. But I got a little bit of a consolation for that, because the girl I lost to in a final of Fed Cup week, Ines Murta from Portugal, I got to play her today, first round of qualis in Irish 100K, and I beat her today.
Oh, wow.
Which was a good feeling. which was a good feeling. A day too late, I would say, but I mean, still some consolation,
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, we don't know what would have happened if it had gone to that deciding doubles. I mean, anything could have gone down. But looking at looking at it, I mean, like you pretty much pushed every single opponent you played, even if you didn't win. Which makes it sound like you didn't win any matches. You did win matches. You did win a little bit this week. So.
Yeah, I mean, my problem is I started week really bad, actually, because we played against Ireland and I won a set from being 2-5 down. And I just literally stepped into a bad spot in the court and I injured my leg.
Oh.
And that was my problem for the upcoming, like for 3-4 days, I actually was on injections and painkillers. So I couldn't produce the best tennis because I simply couldn't move very well and cover the court. So obviously that affected also the quality of my shots and the speed. But, I always give my best. So whatever I had in me, I tried. And, I'm satisfied with the way I fought. Of course, I would be glad if I played a bit better and brought that final point. But I did fight and gave all I had. I could easily just not play because the level of pain in my leg was actually quite high. But I tried, and I think that counts when you try your best.
I would fully agree. I prefer to, and you were talking earlier about being frustrated about the level that you were producing. I mean, it's understandable if you're restricted by an injury, and I think everyone in the tennis community needs to be a little bit more easygoing when it comes to these things, because you don't want to push yourself too far and cause longer term issues. I mean,
Of course.
you were actually, we know before you came on that you were having treatment. Was that for that injury then?
Yes, exactly. Because, well, my ranking is not that great this year, and obviously I'm trying to play the biggest tournaments I can. Like Billie Jean King Cup was obviously my top priority for this month, and I wanted to play there. But also I got into this Oirash 100K tournament, and it's one of the biggest events I could get into with the ranking I have right now. So I didn't want to miss it. I wanted to still try. And well, I do still have pain in that leg, but it's at the level where it's already moderate and I can control it and it's not causing that much trouble anymore. But I obviously do need to get treatment still.
Yeah. And it's going to be one of those. Is it an injury that's going to need managing for a few days or a few weeks or even a few months?
Well, it's the type of muscle that hurts for a long while, and it kind of like you always feel it a little bit, and will probably need a couple of weeks. Obviously, while you're playing, it's not getting better as fast as it could. But I'm at the age where I'd rather try everything I can than not, and yeah, just try to take some chances if I can.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely, if it's worth it, and if you can play through it, and you're not going to you're
Yeah.
risking too much long-term damage. I can see why it'd be worth having a
Yeah,
go
of
at that.
course.
I'm interested to know. Actually, let's answer Ghost's question first before we talk my next question, because actually he's jumping in with a good one. Do you have a trainer or medical team? I would assume, given your ranking, you probably don't, but there might have been something
Well,
with Georgia.
I would say like, well, on the Billie Jean King Cup, we did have a trainer with us, with the team, but obviously not my personal trainer. I mean, that's a luxury that I think top 10, maybe top 20 athletes have. I do have my physio back home in Georgia, but obviously I see him once in a while when I get back home. Usually tournament provides a physio and trainer, unfortunately on ITF level tournaments. They are not that great. So, to be very honest, I'd rather not go to physio than go, even when I feel some pain. When it's moderate, I'd rather just try to do like hot bath or ice bath, everything I can myself. Here, actually, in Portugal, Tennis Federation works really good to organize events, and physios here are luckily very good. But in general, on ITF Tour, that's a very, very big unresolved issue for now.
Okay, there you go. Things that I didn't know before, that you learn something every day, especially when talking to someone who is doing that grind on the ITF tour.
Yeah.
Which obviously you talked to Jack a bit about before. So
Yes.
encouragement to people go and check out that previous interview. Going back to Billie Jean King Cup. Obviously we've talked a little bit about playing on the ITF tour. What's it like in comparison playing Billie Jean King Cup? I know Group 1 probably doesn't get the same level of media attention as maybe the qualifiers were getting. And we'll probably talk about the qualifiers in a little bit. But what's it like playing? And in such intense circumstances, is it much the same as going deep in an ITF tournament?
Oh my God, it's much harder. To be honest, it hurts a bit to watch how much media is playing the qualifyings and playoffs, and how little attention these lower tiers of Billie Jean King Cup gets. I mean, don't get me wrong. We also had Estonia and Greece in our group, which has Annette Kontaveit and Maria Sakkari, players like that. And last year, Ons Jabeur was playing the same tier of Fed Cup. And you get players like you can get a player of top 100 or top 200 or even top 500, but everyone plays different when it comes to playing for your country. Everyone is very tense. Everyone wants to play really good. And, top 200 player can beat like top 10 player because they're simply playing their heart out, and they might play just this one match extraordinary. And just the level of physicality of this level of Fed Cup, Billie Jean King Cup, sorry, like 6 days straight. You have to get up at 6. You're at breakfast with your team. You go warm up all together. Then there's one singles. There's no break. There's another singles, and then there's no break, and you play doubles. Doubles is adds. Doubles is third set. Not like on a random tournament. There's no super tiebreaker. There's full set in doubles. And as I played 12 years for my country, and I've played this year obviously in position 2, but I've played in position 1. And when you play in position 1, it's basically a wear-off. In 2014, I even got an award for like input for my country because I played 5 days straight. I played 5 singles and 5 doubles, and I played 3-setter singles, and I had a 20-minute break, so I had no chance to eat or get a treatment or anything. And then I went to play doubles, and I played 3 sets of doubles, so basically 6 sets in a row, like full sets. And by the end of the week, I had full body cramps almost every hour, and it's insane. And the level of physicality that girls go through, it's almost like countries like Greece. Despina Papamichail this year played every single and every double with the 20-minute break, which is insane. Francesca Georgia also played for Portugal every single and every doubles necessary, also without a break. When they talk that guys play 5 sets and girls play 3 sets, like on this level, you can see just a random female play just 6 sets in a row without a break or anything in a hit. And just the media coverage and how little it is just is astonishing, because it's so interesting and so physical and so actually extraordinary that I think it should be advertised way, way more, just because the format allows it to be so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you about the format, and obviously, the fact it's 6 days of that intensity where you could play 6 consecutive sets.
Exactly.
It sounds tough, but you're overall positive about that format.
Well, it's something that, like as an athlete, I'm actually like a fitness freak, and I just love this. How do you call it? Like, I just love that hard thing that's in front of me, and I'm kind of curious how far I can go as a person. Like personally, for me, it's very like interesting. Can I handle it? Can I handle it 2 days in a row? Can I handle it a week in a row? And well, basically how bad I'll be in the end of the week. So that's actually like, I don't know, pressure is a privilege. I mean, it's said correctly. It's fun, it's painful, but it's fun at the same time. It's very hard to describe the feeling. You're completely nervous and tight, almost cramped up, but at the same time you're super excited, and you're very tired, but you're very motivated to get up in the morning. So it's very mixed feeling. It's something you get only on a Billie Jean King Cup, I would say, because on your personal tournaments, it's still different. You just step on the court and you play for yourself, maybe for a couple of people in your team. And here you play for your country, and for sure there's a live stream and many people watch you, and for them it means a lot. And every time you lose a point, you go like, crap, no. And when you start a match on a normal tournament, you lose first game and you go like, well, okay, I just started a match. You start a match on a Billie Jean King Cup, you're going 0-1, and you're like, oh no, next game you gotta win for sure. It's just something different, and it's fun, and it happens only once a year, so it makes it even more special.
And I'm glad you enjoy it, because I think a lot of tennis fans enjoy the other things that we enjoy about watching the game is that physical challenge that's clearly there. And it's fascinating to hear that a player such as yourself feels the same way, of like you're motivated by that challenge. So it's good to see that it's not a toxic relationship here.
Maybe a bit.
A little bit. Yeah,
maybe a little bit, yeah.
Okay, not completely toxic. But I completely agree with your assessment that given we are in a situation where often physical achievements in tennis are praised, the fact that at this level of Billie Jean King Cup we have players who are pushing that boundary, it does need to be shouted out more. And I think if we were in a country, if you're in a country at that level, it definitely needs to be shouted out, especially if you're an Estonia or a Greece who does have the top players. I think GB was at that level at one point, but when we were at that level, speaking as a fan over here, we didn't actually have, like, the coverage was very minimal.
Exactly. Well, we played actually Great Britain once in like this level. Actually, Georgia as a country, we lost to them 2-1, which was actually great that we won a point because you had Joan Conta and Heather Watson. And it was like, we were clear underdogs, but we loved every point we got there. So
Were you playing in that tie?
Yeah, I lost to Heather Watson singles, and then me and my doubles partner we beat doubles of, if I'm not mistaken, Jocelyn Raya and Anna Smith, I want to say, but I'm not completely sure about that. We played actually in Israel Eilat. It was a very nice venue, and it was exactly the same format. It was 2 round robins. You played 4 countries, then you played the promotional, or you could go down. So our goal as a country was actually to stay in that Euro Africa Zone 1, because that's our, for the moment, only goal that we can have as a country with the amount of players we're having.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was our goal actually this year, to go from group 2 to group 1, but it didn't happen. We lost the final. But basically that's where Georgia wants to be, because obviously when you don't have a top 10 or top 20 player, it's very hard to talk about anything higher.
Yeah, of course. I mean, actually, I was going to ask you about that. Given how close you came this year to going to Group 1, how optimistic are you? How realistic do you think it would be for Georgia to go up to Group 1 next year?
I think it was very realistic this year too. Like, the problem is that, like, as I said, I got injured actually first day, and even though I played and I tried, I did feel pain all the week, so I couldn't play my best tennis as a number 2. Very bad incident happened to our number 1. Her cousin actually died this week back in Georgia, and she was devastated. And she also stayed and played, and she did all her best, but also by the end of the week she was worn off, because the mental stress she was going through all week, like, of course it played a big role. So last 2 days she was completely done physically and mentally, so both of us were out of shape. Our number 3 right now, Mariam Bolkwadze, which used to be top 150 player, also underwent a surgery, so she couldn't even participate in this year's Billie Jean King Cup. And apart from that, we have 2 top 50 doubles players, which is Oksana Kalashnikova and Natela Zalamidze. So obviously our team is good enough for sure to be in Group 1. It was just a series of these unfortunate events that happened to every single team member, So I think if we are all in shape and we're all playing to our optimum capacity, let's say, I think we have a really, really good chance.
Yeah, well, look, you've got to be. I think you should be hopeful of that, especially since, if you were playing with effectively one hand tied behind your back, then yeah, you should be optimistic. Although I would say your group's probably a little bit tougher because Estonia didn't go up. So you've still got Kontaveit in the mix, and Croatia got relegated. So you've got a couple of decent players. Donovekic is the first one I can think of off the top of my head for Croatia. Anna Konjuh, if he's fit.
Anna Konjuh, yeah, that's what I was supposed to say. Well, obviously, there's always. It was never easy, but you only have to beat one player at a time. You don't think about every single team. You get up and you think about the team that's in front of you. Then you never know what happens. For instance, Greece this year had Maria Sakkari with them, but she couldn't play due to some health issues, as far as I know. And Despina Papamikael took over as the number 1, and actually she beat Anett Kontaveit, which was a huge upset, and she beat her quite comfortably. As I said, Billie Jean King Cup is a competition where surprises happen, because some people get more tight and underplay. Some people get more excited and they go over their limits, even if that happens only that week, So like even the girl I played today and yesterday, it was the same player. She played completely differently yesterday when there was like a center court and full stands shouting like Portugal, Portugal. Today it was a different person because, the crowd pushed her yesterday. She felt excited. It was very important. It was for the country. And today, when it was tougher moments, you could see she played a bit worse than she did yesterday. So no matter who you're playing on the Billie Jean King Cup, you have a chance to win, and you know, better the player, more interesting it is to play.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to before it, like Ghost really wants to know, does Georgia have a rival in the Billie Jean King Cup, like another nation that you really, really want to beat?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Actually, no. The problem is our country is very small, and we don't have a lot of players, so we can't. I would think we cannot physically even have rivalry with some country because just by the amount of players we're gonna lose. But I mean, Georgia always wants to like do best of their possibilities. Like we used to be number 36 in the world as a country, which is shocking to me because we only had like 4 players in the ranking. So this is already insane result for us. And we also had an ATP player that was number 15 in the world, Nicolas Basilashvili. So I think as a country with such a little history of tennis and with such little funding, actually, we have almost no funding, really, for real. We have nothing, to be honest. So it's just insane to me that we even can compete at this level. I mean, it's already halfway miracle. So I don't think we can afford to have rivals as a country.
Hey, you never know. I just didn't know whether you would, have a strong rival with Kazakhstan or something. But
I think they beat us financially before we even go on courts.
fair. But Georgian. But yeah, Georgian tennis. You've got a history of some decent players like Basilashvili. I think there's a player of like my tennis history is a bit not great, but
we had a female tennis player that used to be number 11 in the world
was
and
it?
number 7 in the ranking, Leila Mesri. Uh,
Yes.
Alex Metravelli, he played Wimbledon final.
Yeah.
Obviously, amazing achievement. And we also had so many good players, but they happened to play for USSR because it was USSR at that moment. But we did have a lot of good tennis players. We had Alla Ivanova, who played, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to do a mistake here because this will be disrespectful, but I think she played Wimbledon semifinal. And what's also sensational to know that she did so while not having any practice partner or a coach. She simply practiced with the wall every
Wow.
single day, and she went to Wimbledon and she played semi-final, which I think is insane. I cannot even imagine that, but that happened, and it's a true story. So we do have a tennis history. It's just our country is so small, and there's so little funding and so little tennis courts. We almost have no indoors. It's really very hard to achieve anything from there. So everything we achieve as a team or as an individuals, I think it's outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, look, let's hope to see you make your way back up those rankings as you're hoping.
I saw
Um,
someone wrote that Georgian wine has to be really good.
yeah, that actually was our producer. Yes.
It is very good. It's actually, fun fact is not many people know it, but Georgia is the country where the wine was created. It's a cradle of wine. Historically, they found very old wineries in our country, and it's one of the cheapest wines actually in the world, but it's really, really good. Maybe you'll get to try it one day.
Hey, look, cheap and good sounds
It's
pretty
insane.
well sold. Well sold. Everyone go and Google Georgian wine straight away.
For sure, I would recommend. It's called Huanchkara. It's my favorite, so you can Google that one.
Okay. Might need to tell us how to spell it, but
For sure.
I'm just going to do a quick. I mean, I think we've spent the right amount of time on sort of Georgia's performance at the Billie Jean King Cup, sort of what it
Yeah.
means. I actually got to attend GB versus France in the qualifiers as a fan, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It was a great atmosphere. It's interesting to see sort of the scale of people getting really into it versus the really sort of polite British culture of tennis fans who will just support everything. And sort of the various different sort of fan levels of knowledge from talking to people as well. That was interesting. But your point about people kind of raising their game in a Billie Jean King Cup scenario was very much the true, because none of the players that we put out were in the top 100.
Yeah.
We had Katie Bolter, who took Caroline Garcia, the number 5 in the world, to 3 tie-break sets.
Exactly.
Like every match that was played had a tie-break in it, at least one. Harriet Dart pushed Garcia, took her to 3 sets. The doubles that I watched ended in as dramatic a start as you could think, with GB saving match point and then winning it in the super tiebreaker. That was pretty intense. The crowd really got into that one towards the end. But yeah, it's absolutely like the GB players raised their game, with the home crowd. Harriet Dart very much feeding off as much as she could. So it was a really fun event. So I just want to sort of highlight that, saying like this is exactly what you're talking about. And it was interesting listening to the Nichols and Barnett, Alicia Nichols and Olivia Barnett. No, other way around. Alicia Barnett and Olivia Nichols. It's late in this country. Saying that even though it was a dead rubber they were playing in the doubles effectively, it still mattered to them to get a win for the crowd and to get a win on the board for GB to get something away from this
point,
which they earned.
Yeah,
which they very much earned, I think.
Yeah. That's the point. Like it used to have a motto, Billie Jean King Cup, back when it was Fed Cup. It used to have a motto: it takes skill to play for your country, because it does take a skill. It goes far beyond just playing tennis, because the way you have to handle yourself and emotions while playing tennis is something different, which cannot be compared to just simply playing for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that additional pressure it either makes or breaks you. I would imagine. I mean, I've never done anything at a national level in my life. I cannot imagine anything like that. I'm going to ask you to play a little bit of tennis analyst here.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much you've been able to kind of keep up with sort of what's going on. For the benefit of the viewers, I'm just going to run down very, very quickly the outcomes of the qualifiers for the finals that are happening later this year. So Spain made it through, Czech Republic, France, obviously, Canada, the US, Italy, Germany, Kazakhstan, and Slovenia in dramatic style, because they came from 0-2 down to beat Romania in the deciding doubles. That was probably, and there was a bit of a story around sort of Kaya Juvan basically given some difficult personal circumstances. It was a big result for her. Big tie was Kazakhstan versus Poland, but Iga Swiatek didn't end up playing that one. So the biggest match from that ended up being Rybakina versus Linette. But
Canada was pretty tight, as far as I have it, because they decided in the doubles, didn't they?
It did go to the doubles. Basically, that Leylah Fernandez carried that team. She won both her singles matches. The number 2 lost their singles matches, and Fernandez was in the doubles, and they won pretty comfortably.
I actually, basically, all I could watch this week was this double, and it was pretty outstanding, I would say. Like the way they played, it was like flawless, I would say. But yeah, I was happy for them, because I was rooting for Gabriela Dabrowski.
And Dabrowski is a very popular player as well, also being on doubles. But I mean, you probably, I don't know, when you were playing for number 1, you probably didn't have would you ever find that you had to be the one who was kind of carrying the main results for?
Well, it's a yes and a no.
Okay.
Because obviously, like usually number 2 starts to play. So first one to go on court is number 2, and then is number 1. So basically, it's really nice. I had years actually when I played as a number 1 and I won all the singles and all the doubles I participated in, and it was a very good feeling. I also got very tired, and yes, I did feel like I did carry the team, but still takes the second player in the doubles to win the doubles with you, you know. And also all the team cheers for you, so it's not only your work, like they're cheering for you, they're pushing you, you know, they're helping you. Also, just because I also happen to play number 2, I know how it feels to actually start and the pressure number 2 feels when they go on court, because their point is first. So either you give confidence to number 1 and they start at 1-0, you know, so if they lose, you still didn't lose, you know, it's 1-0. Or either you give the pressure to number 1, because if you lose, it's 0-1, and then if number 1 loses, then you basically lose. So it's kind of like, I do feel that number 1 player has to carry a team, but I do think number 2 is also equally important, because it sets the tone for like the tie to be more tight, or maybe a bit more like, you know, okay, I'm nervous, but I have like this point behind me, so I can still be a bit like free. So it's always the team. It's not only you. And anyway, even if you're participating in singles and in doubles, there's still a doubles player next to you who is actually decent and who also have to play really good and step up for you to win this double. You cannot still win it alone. Obviously, if Leila Fernandez played very well, but Gabi Dabrowski did like 3 double faults or Mr. Wallace, they would still lose.
Yeah.
So that means that Gabi had to equally play really, really well that double for them to win that, let's say, easy by the score.
Yeah.
So obviously it wasn't only Leila. Of course, she won her singles, but there was still team with her, cheering for her, pushing her, and there still was Gabi, who was standing with her in the doubles, playing outstanding tennis, and there was a team captain who was coaching there on every single match. Like, team captain is actually also one very under, how do I say it, under
Underrated,
yeah,
underappreciated.
under advertised person on the team, because team captain has to choose which player has to go on court, which player is the right fit for this tie, which player feels good today, which player is less nervous, and you can see who you can put, who is better fit for a doubles match. Like, it's all captain sits on every single match on a chair in any weather, and when a player plays a match, the player has a chance to go to the locker room, change, have a snack, have a coffee, come back. Captain has to be always there, so it's a very, very tough thing to do. You're just standing and playing matches in a row, and actually none of them get enough advertisement or credit, to be honest.
I don't think a lot of people really fully understand what a team captain does, and then when things go wrong, they're the one to get all the flack. Obviously, so going back to the bigger picture stuff. So obviously, we've had the 9 qualifiers. They're going to be joining Australia and Switzerland in the finals. And obviously, we don't know who the 12th team yet is going to be, because the wild cards haven't been introduced. Obviously, as a GB fan, I'm hoping it's going to be GB, but I would also say that Romania and Poland probably would also be worthy recipients of it. From knowing who is on the team, who would you say is going to be going into the finals in the strongest position as a whole team?
Well, I would say Canada is a very good candidacy given if Bianca Andreescu is obviously fit, because then they would have 2 really good singles player and a doubles player. Kazakhstan has Rybakina and Putintseva, and I think it's really good. But again, as I said, it's really, really hard to predict, because it depends who gets more stressed and tight and who will actually step up for the challenge, you know. So I really, really think there's not much favorites in Billie Jean King Cup.
That's, to be fair, like, I would agree with that. I don't think anyone called Switzerland winning it last year, despite the fact that when you think about it on paper, they've got 2 very, very strong players in Belinda Bencic and Pikeman.
Yeah, they do. But when you think of them as a team and how, you know, like, how big other teams are and other countries, like even USA, like you don't give this favor to Switzerland, like, oh, Switzerland is going to beat USA, or Switzerland is going to beat Kazakhstan, or Poland with Iga Swiatek. So well, yeah, they are underdogs on the paper still.
True.
But they did win it because they do have a heart. And Belinda Bencic actually proved many times she's a good team player. On a Hopman Cup, she played amazing. Every time she plays for a team, she plays good. She played really good for a junior Fed Cup team when she was junior. So this is a player who actually steps up always when it comes to defending her country. So it's really hard. Like I would cheer for Canada because I do think they do play quality tennis, but then we never know. We'll see.
Canada's a fun team. Leylah Fernandez is one of my favorite players to watch on the main tour. Dabrowski, as I said, is a really good doubles player, and also, let's face it, someone who I'm connected with through popcorn tennis, which is something I'm involved with, is part of the Team Canada media team, and so I'm going to be obviously rooting for them a little bit anyway as well. Something I just wanted to close off on Billie Jean King Cup.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually often feature very highly on people's list of events, tennis events they would attend. So very unscientific thing here. A couple of weeks ago on my Twitter, I basically said, of the big tennis events, which ones are you most wanting to go to? Sort of rank it most to least. And I basically just listed all the major championships, all the 1,000 events on the ATP and the WTA, and I included Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup because I do think those events have significant status. Probably throw the Olympics in I threw the Olympics in as well.
Yeah.
And Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup, I will be fair here, ranked fairly low. Very few people mentioned them, and when they were mentioned, they were at the bottom of a lot of people's lists. It was and I have quite an international sort of cross-reference on my Twitter following. I think on here we've got, I asked John this earlier, we've got people from GB, USA, France, Canada, Germany. We may well have some people from Georgia watching because you're on today. So hello if you're from Georgia. Why do you think it would be worth attending the Billie Jean King Cup tie as a fan at any level? Pitch it to us.
Well, first of all, you can cheer way looser on a Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup. There are certain rules as a fan you have to follow on every big event and on the majors. You have to be very quiet. You can clap, but like kind of more, more legally. On Billie Jean King Cup, everyone shouts, screams, yells. Like, it's more fun. The atmosphere is crazy, and there's really no rules and boundaries. It's almost like a football game, so that makes it very, very fun. So I would recommend every tennis fan to attend this event at least once, because they will fall in love with it and they will always want to attend it then. I just think, as I said, I just really think it's not advertised as good as other majors and other events. Also, I think the big issue why it's so unpopular is because it doesn't give a ranking point. So basically, no matter how good or bad you perform, it doesn't matter for the ranking. And I think that's not exciting for tennis fans. It doesn't matter if Sofia Shapatava beats like 5 top 10 players in a week, she's still going to stay 400 in the rankings regardless. And it doesn't matter if a top tennis player loses 5 matches in a week, he's still going to stay like top 10 tennis player. And I think that's not as exciting. I do think it would be great if tours considered giving points, because it's so, as I said, it's so physical, it's so emotional, it's so interesting. I do think that players deserve to get rewarded for that, but I don't know if that's going to happen in the near future, but I think that would make it also a bit more interesting for the fans.
I would support that, to be honest, not just for the players, again, the ones who do perform well in the team competitions, but also it would increase fan engagement. I mean, I know Davis Cup gave points at one point for the ATP.
At one point, I think.
I remember Andy Murray getting to number 2 because he won the Davis Cup, but I didn't realize that Fed Cup never had that.
Yeah, I don't want to be like wrong and mistaken because I don't remember specifically every single moment of it. I just can like only can relate to last 12 years, I would say, since I'm playing it. And well, it never had points. So I do think
Right.
it would make it more interesting for fans if they knew that their countrywoman or their countryman could like gain positions in the ranking if they came and supported.
Yeah, I think, and generally, sort of national events, getting behind a team is possibly easier than getting behind a player as well, because I
Yes.
think for a lot of people, it's like, well, who's playing? Who is it? I was sat next to someone at the Billie Jean King Cup who genuinely did not know who the top 10 in the women's rankings were. He only followed British players and how they were doing. So.
Okay.
So it was sort of in the big picture stuff, but like you get behind your team or any kind of team, I think it could probably help.
And it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's a great event. I mean, I do think that the GB France tie that I attended, the atmosphere wasn't quite as rocking as sort of you described. There were people trying to sort of cheer and gee everyone up, but the audience was a little bit too polite.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen on Billie Jean King Cup. It should go crazy.
There was definitely like pockets, like we have what we call the British Barmy Army with like complete with trumpets and everything. There was a guy in all decked out in all Union Jack cheering on the players whenever he could. There was one guy who had a little bit too much to drink, who was trying to put off the French players between serves and got kicked out of the stadium. And then the French had a very strong contingent who were also very noisy and very inventive with the songs they were singing. But we were all sat on one side of the court, and I couldn't really see much going on like around the other stands. So, yeah, we definitely needed some more rowdier people turning up.
To be very fair, and GB, whenever they came to group part of the Billie Jean King Cup, they were in, as I said, in Israel. They were, if I'm not wrong, in Budapest. Twice or 3 times they were on the same level with us. To be very fair, they did travel with a 20 people group of fans, which was actually a luxury because other teams didn't. And that guy with the trumpets, I think he was there because I remember him annoying me on my match. So yeah. So to be fair, they were there.
Yeah. Okay. We've gone over a little bit because obviously I think we originally said 30 minutes to you.
Okay.
If you want to keep going, you're more than welcome to. If you obviously need to rest before playing tomorrow, completely understand. And we can always get someone else quickly subbing in. But like the only other thing left was to quickly preview Stuttgart. Because obviously this is a weekly show. We're sort of looking ahead to that. So what do you want to do, Sofia?
Unfortunately, I do have to zoom out because I do play first match tomorrow and it's at 10, so I have to leave early. So I will be leaving you. Okay. But I really appreciate you inviting me and your patience for waiting for me, actually. And I wish you very good luck for your show, and I hope it gets more followers because it's fun.
Oh, thanks very much, Sofia. Appreciate it. And like, it's been absolutely brilliant listening to an insider's perspective on what it's like on Billie Jean King Cup and giving this event the love that it deserves. So obviously you're playing an ITF event in Portugal. What level was it? 100K?
It's 100K, yeah.
100K. So big.
It's the biggest ITF actually. Yeah. So it's still quite exciting. So yeah.
And that's lots of opportunities for you to, do well here. As long as there's not too many people who couldn't get into Stuttgart here. Yeah. And you have a management company as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's called Shapa Management. Random, but yeah, I do.
And and is that purely tennis management? Is that sports in general? What does that do?
It's basically, I wanted to create a space where I could connect tennis universities, organization of tournaments, organization of a practice calendar. There's so many young players that aren't aware of the system, unaware of the rules, unaware of how to manage the travel. Some of them want to go to university, but they have no contacts. They need equipment. So I kind of created this one safe space, let's say, for tennis players where they can find a mental coach, fitness coach, nutrition coach, where they can find like easier paths to create a easier path to professional tennis or a university level tennis, whichever they like. So basically, I'm the mediator, if that's correct word in English, between tennis players and whatever they want to achieve.
Which I think is a massively vital service, especially for those setting out on their journey or sort of lower down in the rankings. So
Yeah,
good on you for setting that up, and hope it continues to grow.
I hope so too, because strangely, this is actually a very rare thing where we can find in tennis this sort of services where you can like call someone and say, look, I want to get into university, or can you help me set up my calendar? Or look, I really struggle mentally and I need a mental coach. How you help me find someone good? So I think it's useful. So let's see how it goes. I hope it actually starts working really well.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Good luck
Thank you.
tomorrow playing
Thank you.
in about, is it 11 hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Get
Yeah.
some sleep, Sofia. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And see you soon, hopefully. I'm going to stay
Hopefully.
on. I'm going to stay on and talk to the chat a little bit about Stuttgart. Take care, Sofia.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Yeah. So obviously, hello, Max. I've seen you've joined, and we've got John on as well.
How you doing? All right?
Yeah. Yeah. All good. That was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that interview.
Good. You did great, and it was great to have Sofia on again and getting her thoughts on playing and the pressures involved of playing both lower down the tennis pyramid, but also, of course, the Billie Jean King Cup and the excitement that comes with that, and also the pressure as well that she highlighted. But yeah, let's get to Stuttgart, shall we?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple of questions, or at least introduce you, Nick, to the other side of the fence, so to speak. Are you pumped?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people are unsure whether it's a good thing that WTA 500 are so stacked, and I do think that the clay season on the WTA is a little bit too congested, and more players need a bit more warm up. As I kind of cracked about with Sofia about having to drop down to ITF level to get some time in, because it's impossible to get into the big events. Like Stuttgart is a 30, like I think the top 4 have buys, and it's it starts at the last 32. So realistically, if you're top 20 in the world, you're just about getting in if you wanted to. So Paula Badosa had to get on a wild card. It's mental. But on the other hand, it does mean we've got some absolutely epic first rounds. I mean, okay, slight British bias here, but even so, 2 Grand Slam champions facing off in round 1, Jelena Ostapenko and Ebba Raducanu. Yes, please. If they're both playing well, that's going to be epic, because Jelena Ostapenko, we don't know what you're going to get from her, but you know she's going to hit the ball incredibly hard. There's going to be some attitude. Emma's going to bring the fight. Let's go. I'm watching that one. If I don't have to go to work. But yeah, I'm totally pumped for that match in particular. And you've got Barbora Krejcikova and Lyudmila Samsonova in round 1. You've got Karolina Pliskova and Maria Sakkari in round 1.
Yeah,
that's madness. And the fact that you can have quality matches from day 1, from round 1.
Didn't Zhang last year, Kunwen Zhang, she played Iga at Roland Garros, right?
Yes,
I think
pushed Iga to 3 sets.
Yeah, she might be the only person who took a set off her last year. That's a potential second round. Alicia Parks, of course, won a title earlier on this year, albeit that she's a lucky loser and clay, but you would imagine Iga's first match will be against Zheng, although Zheng can be a bit up and down, but that would be special. Vekic has obviously just won her, I believe it was her first title earlier this year as well, and had a great run in Australia, only to go out to the eventual winner. Pliskova doesn't need much of an introduction, nor does Maria Sakkari, of course, French Open semi-finalist, I believe, and US Open semi-finalist as well. Ons Jabeur, probably the biggest shock of 2022 was her losing in the opening round at Roland Garros. She'll hope to rectify that this year. Ostapenko Raducanu is an exciting first match. Would you make Ostapenko favourite for that?
Yes, given clay court pedigree and given sort of how she is, she's kind of top 20 at the minute. Emma isn't. Being an optimistic Brit, and given that Emma did reasonably well in Stuttgart last year, I think she could beat Ostapenko. I think it does rely on Ostapenko self-destructing a little bit, but you can kind of see that coming. There's a 50% chance of that happening. So I'm optimistic
she's
about that
also
one.
turned a little bit of a corner this year, has she, Emma?
Yes, it does feel like that.
Yeah. Trevisan had admire, doesn't need much introduction. I mean, Trevisan is a former French Open semi-finalist, am I right? Last year, maybe. Was it? I'm not sure. Rybakina, of course, we know all about. Niemeyer's had good runs as well in the past. Coco Gauff, last year's French Open finalist. Kudermetova, I know, is somebody that many people, I think Jack might be quite big on her at the moment. So, yeah. I mean, listen, we could go on. Garcia obviously is in round 2 with a bye. Maybe her draw is a little kinder. Maria, of course, has just won a tournament on clay in Bogota. So, yeah, but Badosa wild card, but she's kind of fallen off.
The first round. I forgot about that one. That's another epic.
Yeah, Samsonova, Krejcikova. Krejcikova, by the way, Sabalenka, another meeting between those two. They two keep meeting early on in tournaments and can't get much earlier than a second round, as it would potentially be there. Any sort of broader thoughts regarding this tournament? Iga, of course, we need to have a quick word on her making her comeback. I do hope from her perspective that her comeback doesn't end super quickly in terms of that obviously very tricky second round that she might have.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so obviously anyone who watches this channel or follows me on Twitter knows that I am an Iga Swiatek fan. I think on paper she should win this. She's the defending champion. She loves clay. Here's the thing, though. This clay behaves very differently. It's indoors.
Yeah, true.
It's indoors. It's not as slow as Roland Garros or Rome, which is where Iga's been very comfortable over the last few years. Whereas, given that Zhang Qinwen is someone who's troubled Iga before, hits it pretty hard. I am marking that as an upset alert in round 2. I think Zhang will beat Parks. Generally, I find lucky losers don't have a lot of momentum in first rounds, and Parks would probably be more comfortable on a harder surface than clay, because it is still clay, even if it behaves differently. The movement's still different to a hard court. I could see Zhang knocking out Iga, who is obviously coming back from that injury. Was troubled a little bit more in this tournament last year. I remember obviously kind of riding that wave of that winning streak, and I do remember Stuttgart being a tricky one for her, a trickier one. Like, she nearly lost to Ludmila Samsonova in the quarterfinals. She had to beat Emma 6-4, 6-4. Sabalenka wasn't an easy final, I think, for her either. Max, I've seen in the chat you're talking about Elena meeting Iga, so like even if Iga gets the semis, Rybakina's not going to be uncomfortable here, and we know how that rivalry is going. So I think that even though Iga on favorite, it is on paper the favorite, not on favorite the paper. I do think that she's got a really tough draw, and I could see her losing really early. And I think when I did my bracket, I think it was a tough choice for me between Rybakina or Sabalenka to win it. I edged Sabalenka in the end.
I understand. Yeah, get voting, by the way. We've got a poll going on for this particular tournament as to who you think will emerge the victor. I'll have a quick look at that poll in a second. Before I do so, as you say, though, Iga's run, because it won't get any easier after Zheng, it could well be Sakkari or Pliskova. Who do you have winning that first round, by the way?
I actually think Pliskova.
Yeah.
I think this conditions will suit her flat hitting pretty well. I don't think Pliskova's too bad a matchup for Swiatek, though. I do think Swiatek quite likes playing Pliskova on the whole.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think if he did get through that Zhang test, I think Pliskova would be fine. If she plays Sakari, though, and I'm wrong about that first round, because that one could turn on a dime, that's going to be quite close. Sakari would be a different challenge.
Indeed, indeed. So, if I understand correctly, you're just going Sabalenka, right, for the whole title?
I am edging towards Sabalenka winning it. She's a finalist last year. If she was
Who
to
did
play
she lose to
Rebecca,
last year in the final?
Swiatek.
Oh, okay, of course, yes. Swiatek would have been in the middle of her run. Yeah, I think the problem with Swiatek is A, the draw, B, she might just need a tournament to get up and running. That makes sense. Let's see who we've got in our poll. 55% have gone for Swiatek, 27% have gone for Jabeur. Of course, she has won a clay court title recently, and no one has gone for Sabalenka as yet. There is still time, obviously, to get voting before this show comes to an end. We'll probably bring it to an end in the next couple of minutes, but yeah, make sure you get voting there. And other 18%. Who would be the fourth favorite after Swiatek, Jabeur, and Sabalenka?
Rebecca.
Yeah, despite her
Rebecca.
lack of pedigree on the surface.
No, Rebecca's got plenty of pedigree on clay.
Okay.
I think she's won a title on it. If I'm
Okay.
to look it up, but I'm pretty sure she's got a clay title. I mean, even if she doesn't, she's a Roland Garros quarterfinalist, beating Serena Williams.
Okay. Yeah, true.
So I would say that she's got clay pedigree. Maybe her CV isn't as starry as some of the others around her. So we're talking Iga, obviously, Sabalenka winning the Madrid Open a couple of years back.
But Coco Gauff, French Open finalist. Ostapenko, of course.
Yeah, Goff is someone I've seen mentioned in the chat as well. I think this clay behaves a little bit differently, but she might be in the mix for here. I think I could see her reaching the semis. Krejcikova, but I don't know if she's gonna.
It's the draw as well.
Really tough for her. Like I could see her losing to Samsonova in the first round.
And then
Sabalenka again.
I mean, she could come through them. I mean, her draw in, I know it's a different surface, but her draw in the WTA 1000, the first one of the year, was insanely difficult, but she managed to get through. By the way, we've got someone new in the chat, Jolan Siabi. I hope I'm saying your name right. Make sure you hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. I tell you what, I'm going to go against you, Nick, and I'm going to tip, despite her tough draw, I'm going to go for Swiatek to win the title.
Look, let's face it. Fans tend to be the most pessimistic ones, right?
Can be.
Yeah. So, and I think it makes sense to me. Like, it's one of those things where I'm being pessimistic. I could also easily be wrong, and we'll see Iga start the new clay streak.
Cool.
Which could well happen.
Any final thoughts on the previous 7 days, or even the next couple of months? We're going to be doing this obviously pretty much on a weekly basis. I'm off to Barcelona to cover the ATP event there. I'll be heading off there on Thursday, and then I'll be all over Madrid as well. But I'm sure we'll be most Sundays doing this. But any other thoughts either on the previous 7 days or the upcoming 7 days, Nick, before we bring
I think upcoming 7 days, I'm just looking forward to a mega Stuttgart event that's just going to be action all the way through. There'll be plenty to keep an eye across the ATP, but Mary and Damien have got you covered there. And I hope that Barcelona is absolutely brilliant. It looks like a fantastic tournament to visit. But I'll be thinking of you whilst I am enjoying watching the WTA indoors on clay in front of very fast Porsche cars.
Yeah, indeed. But I remember your poll, of course, recently on Twitter. Make sure you give Nick a follow on Twitter. What is your Twitter handle?
At Nick_B Carter.
And of course, check out Popcorn Tennis. I did. I think I put a link to Popcorn Tennis as well in the chat earlier. I know Nick and among many others. Basically, Popcorn and Talking Tennis. I've been picking off various members of the Popcorn community over the last 8 or 9 months, picking their brains and So we certainly cross over and check out their website. And Nick on Twitter, an interesting poll or question that you posed recently was tournaments that you would like to visit potentially, or tournaments that you've been to, I think was also among there that your favorites. I did post in the live chat earlier, my sort of favorite that I've been to would be New York US Open. And one I've not been to, I think Indian Wells would be cool, but maybe a bit surreal, just in terms of you kind of feel like on a tennis island, which if you love tennis is great, but sometimes it's also quite cool to sort of get out and see things. But I'm not sure if there's much else to see around Indian Wells. But bearing in mind you're in the desert, I'm not sure what's your tournament you'd really like to visit.
It's actually Indian Wells because I just want to be in that tennis bubble. Definitely. I would want to go to the ATP finals in Turin, just because I've obviously done the when it was in 02, and I want us to compare the experience. And obviously, I also think it's one of the best tournaments in the world because it's just action, action, action. Same for the WTA finals. I really want to go there one day and sort of celebrate the best the WTA has to offer. So I'd say off the top of my head, those are the 3 tournaments that I'd be most interested in visiting. Outside of the UK, obviously, I will go back to Wimbledon at any given opportunity, and just sort of maybe mark off various different UK tournaments. The one that fascinates me the most is the Challenger that takes place in Ilkley, because it just, for those who don't know, like Ilkley is a Yorkshire town that even doesn't get thought about much from those who live in the UK. So the idea of there being a top level professional tennis tournament that happens there, I just want to go there and experience it on that level, just to put something a little bit more random out there.
There are just 2 very, very quick things I want to address that's in the chat. I agree with, I think, Jolan. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. I think Ons Jabeur is an interesting scenario to see how she gets on. She's a contender for sure. And I am fascinated to see if she can continue her obviously good form that she returned to in Charleston. And Max is mentioning I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys, which reminds me of one occasion I was running a marathon and I was struggling as we got sort of the last sort of 3 or 4 miles or 3 or 4 kilometers. And I started singing that. I came on my music as I was trudging on through, and I just started singing and people started laughing around me. I had the earphones in, so I could see people were laughing and I knew what they were laughing about, but I didn't care. I needed something to get me through those last couple of kilometers.
Well, look, you've got to find some form of motivation. And hey, Backstreet Boys is one option. Was it that song, like I Want It That Way?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't know why Max is mentioning it. Did you mention something about the Backstreet Boys?
No. So my name is Nick Carter.
Oh, of course, yes.
Which is also a band member of the Backstreet Boys.
Got it. Yeah.
So I've already sung once on a live stream. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I joined in too. All right, listen, everybody, big thank you to you, Nick. Of course, I know this is your show that I've gate crashed here just for the last few minutes. Obviously, a big thanks to Sofia as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Really enjoyed that interview. I'm looking forward to Stuttgart. We can always up for chatting about tennis with you, John, online or offline. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to being back next week to talk about what drama may have unfolded in Stuttgart.
Yeah, and see Emma Raducanu win her first title on clay.
That would be madness, utter madness.
It would, but you never know. It's a strange world, and the WTA world in particular. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And you'll subscribe, especially because we'll be back again next week with loads more shows, but, of course, culminating in Nick's WTA Roundup next Sunday. So thanks, guys. Cheers, Nick.
Cheers, John. Cheers, everyone.
And I'll play us out with this little video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.